Before we get to the climbing wall, let me remind you of the 164-foot challenge, Guinness Book certified world's tallest artificial climbing wall. I've given myself 21 days to train for the climb to the top, and all training will be at Basecamp Climbing Gym. When you first enter the space, you're greeted by all the colors of the handholds and the footholds that create the climbing routes. This is called the Bouldering Room. When you're here in the evening, there's a wonderful community of climbers that are socializing in between challenging themselves with these climbing routes. I'm not gonna lie, I'm a little bit nervous. I can't do a single push-up, so I have no idea how today is gonna go, but I signed up for a 1-hour instructional, so here we go. On this episode of Ordinary to Extraordinary USA, I'm gonna take you through my 21-day training program. I've always wanted to try this, and I've been so intimidated because I don't have any friends that climb. Yeah. So what do you think about training over the next 21 days? Do you think like weightlifting, kind of, legs, lunges, squats?
Honestly, I think that my best advice would just be climbing.
This is Michael. He's my instructor for this session, and he's going to introduce me to wall climbing. We're in the kids' room, which is the easiest place to start and practice how to fall properly. Okay, so you want me to jump off and then just fall backwards, basically? Yeah, okay.
Yep, just like that. Once that feels, yeah, just like that. Once that feels totally comfortable.
Learning to fall properly is really important so that you don't get injured when you're practicing in the bouldering room. Michael also took the time to explain to me how the routes are designed and how they're labeled on the wall, so you know what level the route is before you start the climb. At this point in the training session, we moved out of the kids' room and onto the easiest wall in the bouldering room. Now, this is not intended to be an instructional video. I'm brand new at climbing, and anybody experienced will know I am doing everything wrong. For one thing, you'll notice on this first day that my arms are almost always bent like a Tyrannosaurus Rex, and my hips are generally too far away from the wall. Both of these are causing me to work 4 times harder than I would need to work if I was using proper techniques. Of course, Michael did a great job. You can't teach everybody everything they need to know on the first day, so his goal and my goal was just to not be afraid of the wall and to start getting familiar with how it feels to climb. These are called jugs, which are the easiest climbing holds. I'm also switching back and forth between the 2 camera angles, so you can see this is from my perspective what it looks like. And this is the very first time I reached the top of a route. Now that I have one project, as a climber would say, a route equals a project under my belt, Michael's gonna put me on a wall in the big bouldering room. You can really tell in these camera angles how much I'm trying to use my upper body to get up the wall. I'm just basically abusing my biceps anytime my arms are that bent, and I'm really not at all yet using my legs or pushing up through my toes. That technique will come later. Next, we're gonna move outside, and Michael's gonna teach me the auto-belay.
Loop it through this green loop on the harness. When you do that, double check that you can't just open this carabiner just by like pushing on it, and that it is engaged and it's locking, and you have to do all of that try action to get it open.
Okay.
That means you're clipped in, everything, and then instead of a V out here on ropes climbs, it's gonna be a 5 first, but again, it's just the second number. So this green 5-6 is going to be the same difficulty as the one you'll go up on that one.
Okay. At base camp, these outdoor walls where they have the auto-belays are 35 feet high, so about half the distance of the initial part of the climb to the top. This video gives you a really good look at jugs, which, as I mentioned before, they're the easiest hand grips, and they're great for a new climber. They've got the most room for your hand and the most friction for you to easily grab onto. At this point, I'm actually going to start climbing down the wall, which I'm telling myself and Michael it's for building up endurance, which is true, but mostly I'm just afraid at this point to use the auto-belay. That'll change later when I get more familiar down the road with the training. I thought it was important to include a lot of this footage because when I was first looking at the climb to the top as a challenge, I really couldn't find online any videos of what it was actually going to look like when I started getting on the walls. All right, so I'm here at Basecamp and today is training day 1. So the plan is to bring you along on my journey as I train to do the big climb at the end. This is the day after the training session with Michael and the first time I'm on my own in the climbing gym. I'm at the gym at Basecamp where they have the cardio equipment and the weight equipment. You can see it's next to the Bouldering Room. Stay tuned for the end of the video when I summarize all the training, but I wanted to show you a little video just so you know I actually did it. Okay, day 1 training done. 30 minutes of wall climbing, calluses on my hands to prove it. I did some leg workouts. I haven't done a lunge or a squat in about 100 years, so I did a couple sets of those and some step-ups. And then I was on the treadmill for about 30 minutes. So day 1 done. See you tomorrow. Over the course of the 21 days, I was at the Basecamp gym a lot. I was on the walls every other day and doing other types of training on the opposite days. This is the first day that I'm outside on the auto-belay by myself, and I'm doing a different route than you saw me do earlier. As I mentioned earlier, please keep in mind this is not a training video. I'm doing a lot of things wrong here. For one thing, I'm grabbing footholds with my hands. For the other thing, the handholds, depending on the direction they're leaning, will tell you which hand is the optimal one to use them with. I'm not doing any of that correctly. I'm going to go back to the audio on the GoPro here for a minute because, as I told you, I'm out on the auto-belay by myself for the very first time. And I'm about to lean back and actually trust this auto-belay, and I want you to hear my breathing change as I'm trying to work myself up to do it, and then what I say when my feet touch the ground. Honestly, it made me laugh every single time I watched this video during the editing process because I remember what this felt like, and I also remember after I got over it the first time, it was no big deal every time after that. And the auto-belay actually became my favorite practicing training tool. All right. Whew. Oh, that first one made me want to throw up. Listen carefully for advice from street level. Did you hear it? Some kind gentleman walking down the sidewalk at street level gave me the best advice as he screamed, "Don't fall." Good idea, dude. One thing you'll see climbers do a lot is take a break when they're in a comfortable position and shake their hands out. And what they're trying to do is get the blood back into their grip and their forearms. I'll later learn that climbers first shake their hands above their head to get the bad blood out and then below their waist to get the good blood in. This is my very first peek at what the challenge is going to look like. Can you see him? He's a very young man and very experienced climber compared to me especially, and he makes this look very easy. His friend goes second, and it's going to give me a sense of what happens when you let go of the wall and how much you're actually going to swing out and then swing back into the wall. Time for a little yoga. I thought it was really important to work on my flexibility, but also just being present in the moment, which I knew was going to be important for the mental aspects of the climb. So I did yoga on the off days when I wasn't doing the wall climbing. Yoga is great for a lot of things, including building core strength. Next, we're going to go outside and we're going to get some practice on the actual wall that I'll be doing during the Climb to the Top challenge. This is Zach. He's going to be the instructor for my second technical session. I thought it was important because even though I was working hard in the bouldering room and on the auto-belay, and I was working on my endurance and getting more comfortable with the holds and the routes, I still wasn't learning enough about the proper technique, and I knew I was working too hard on the walls. This was a critical step in conquering the fear of the challenge itself.
For the first 35 or like 20 feet, it's going to be a ladder. The last little bit is going to be more climbing, and then obviously the last 90 feet is going to be slow.
Okay.
Just be aware of that. There will be slight difficulty changes as you go.
Although I gained a lot of confidence after working with Zach on this day, it would still be another week, and even during the challenge itself, where I actually started overcoming the mental aspect required to succeed. This is called an auto-belay. So you hook yourself in, and as I'm climbing up, if at any point I come off the wall, it will lower me down so that I don't fall, even though that would help this video go viral. By now, I have no fear of these 35-foot walls or the auto-belay, and on this day, I'm going up and down these routes as quickly as I can with as few breaks as I can. I'm really trying to build up my endurance because I know the day of the challenge, I have to be able to climb 164 feet with as few breaks as possible. You can also tell in this video I'm doing much better with the technique of using my legs. You can see me getting my toes on the toe holds correctly. I'm leaning my nose over my toes and driving up through my legs. And there's also times when I pivot my toe and get my hip into the wall and reach higher. I'm very proud at this point of the progress I'm making. You can also see I've eliminated a lot of the T-Rex arm situation I had going on in the beginning, and also that my hips are much closer to the wall, which is key to drive up through the legs. This route that I'm on is much harder than anything I'm going to face on the day of the challenge, and that reach you just saw me do for that grip is the closest I ever got to grabbing that. I'll tell you what, that red grip is very elusive. The great part about practicing on the outdoor wall is it's what I'll be doing on Wednesday when I conquer this challenge, and it really helps in terms of practicing your endurance. This is the last climb I'm going to show you before I'm going to wrap it up and give you my tips and tricks for training for this challenge. I really wanted to include this video because here's where I'm really trying to work on my technique of pushing through the legs, but also building my endurance. Again, these are 35 feet, and I'm going up and down them with as few breaks in between, or the shortest break in between that I can do, because I want to make sure mentally I'm prepared on the day of the challenge to be on the wall for a 164-foot climb. It's so crazy to me to watch these videos and see where I was on the very first day working with Michael compared to how I look on the wall in this video. It's amazing to me, and it's such a short amount of time, and it was so much fun. When you're using the auto-belay, you don't want to climb past or higher than the auto-belay machine itself, which from this angle you can see is almost directly above my head. So the way you complete these routes is when both of your hands are on the highest hand hold for that particular route. And route complete. Look at me, rappelling down like a pro. I'm so excited. I just finished my last training session at the Basecamp Climbing Gym. It was fantastic. I had so much fun. And it's really neat when a physical challenge goes from being, holy cow, can I even do this, to, oh wow, this is fun. I'd like to do more of this. And I felt like that's what happened today. So for the training over the last 3 weeks, I've really tried to mix it up. I've taken some yoga classes to work on my flexibility. I've done some jogging on the treadmill, not that you need a lot of cardio, but I do think it just mentally makes me feel better to do some light cardio. And also when you're on the wall, you do need a level of fitness and you do want to make sure you can breathe. So I did think it was important to get on the treadmill a little bit. I did the auto-belay, which I mentioned, which is practice on the outside wall when you're harnessed in. Which, to be honest, was my favorite practice because mentally, it's the closest to getting me ready for the challenge that I'm going to do on Wednesday when I do the climb to the top, which is on the outdoor wall. And then I also did a ton of practice in the Basecamp Climbing Gym's Bouldering Room, which is their main room where they have all the different grips and different patterns, or as climbers call them, problems to solve on the wall. So at Basecamp, they change those patterns in that bouldering room every week. And they're all labeled so you know which ones are at your level when you start climbing that particular challenge. I talked to a lot of climbers in the gym. Everybody was more than willing to share their experience and their insight, which was fantastic. I also paid for a couple lessons. I thought it was important to really try to focus on gaining some knowledge about the techniques. Part of the techniques you have to learn is to try to keep your arms as straight as possible. And you want to get your toe on the foothold in the right position so that you can pivot and really drive up through the toes so that you're using your legs a lot more than you're using your arms. So I thought it was important to take a couple instructional sessions. The smartest thing I did, and I feel like this is a pro tip, is look up YouTube videos, especially when it came to the techniques. What I found is that very experienced climbers, it potentially has been a very long time since they did a technique for the very first time. So sometimes it's hard for them to articulate it in a way that I could hear it and then translate it to my body actually doing it. So I found some fantastic YouTube videos and it allowed me to rewind them and watch them again several times until I felt like I understood the concept and then could apply it in the gym. Finding YouTube videos with female climbers was helpful because they were less likely to cheat and use their biceps to muscle through a climb. So when I was really trying to understand the legs techniques, these women's videos were fantastic. And they did a great job demonstrating pushing through the toes, dropping the knee so you could turn the hip into the wall and have the bigger reach. So in the description, you'll find links to 3 videos. Two of them are by a woman named Coach B. Fantastic in terms of techniques to get the legs more involved in climbing. Also, ideas on how to warm up your body and how to get your glutes engaged when you're going to do a climbing workout. The 3rd video was also by a female climber, and she did a fantastic job very concisely going through many techniques and many different grips on the wall and many different positions on the footwork. So I included a link to her video as well in the description. I think the biggest challenge is mental, because you can do as much as you're going to do to get ready physically. But then at the end of the day, once you're on the wall during the challenge, you just have to know you're physically capable and you got to figure it out. You got to solve the problem to get up the wall. So I'm excited to conquer that challenge. Let's do it. So we'll see how it goes on Wednesday. If you enjoyed this video, please click the like button and be sure to subscribe to my channel so you can see how the challenge turns out. I'll see you on the next one.